Please, I need money for formula. My baby hasn't eaten in hours. I'll pay you back next week, I promise. Elena's thumb hit send before her exhausted brain could check the number twice. The phone screen blurred in front of her eyes. 48 hours without sleep turning everything into a haze of desperation. Behind her, the baby's cries had finally weakened into whimpers, which somehow felt worse. Stronger cries meant fight. These soft, defeated sounds meant surrender. She couldn't let her daughter surrender. The diner shift had been a nightmare. 6 hours on her feet for $42 in tips. And half of that went to bus fare and the neighbor who watched the baby. The formula tin sat empty on the counter, mocking her. She'd scraped the sides with a spoon an hour ago, mixing the powder residue with more water than recommended, watching it turn pale and thin. Her phone buzzed. Who is this? Elena's stomach dropped. She pulled up the message thread, saw the number, and felt ice flood through her chest. One digit. One wrong digit. This wasn't her sister's number. I'm so sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore that. I'm so sorry. She typed it fast, hands shaking, then put the phone face down on the counter and pressed her palms against her eyes. Exhaustion burned behind them. The baby whimpered again, and Elena pushed off the counter, walking to the second-hand crib wedged into the corner of her studio apartment. I know, baby girl. No. Mama's trying. Her phone buzzed again. She shouldn't look. She should let it go, pretend it never happened, figure something else out. Maybe the corner store would let her pay tomorrow. Maybe Mrs. Chen downstairs had formula to spare. Maybe. She looked. How much do you need? Elena stared at the words. Read them twice. 3 times. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was insane. This was a stranger. This could be dangerous or a prank or worse. The baby cried. Elena typed. I can't ask you that. I don't even know you. I'm sorry for bothering you. The response came immediately. You already asked. How much? 20 minutes later, her phone lit up with a notification. $60 deposited into her mobile account. No name attached. Just a transfer from an unknown source, and a follow-up text. Get the formula. Take care of your baby. Elena sat on the floor beside the crib, phone clutched in both hands, and cried for the first time in 3 months. Across the city, in an apartment where silence cost more than most people's mortars, Dominic Keller stared at his phone screen. He didn't know why he'd sent the money. He'd ignored dozens of scam texts before, deleted them without a second thought. But something in the phrasing had hooked him. The specificity of it. Formula. Hours. Pay you back next week. Felt real. And he'd been drowning in things that felt fake for so long that real cut through him like a blade. His apartment was immaculate and empty. Glass and steel and leather furniture that cost a fortune and felt like nothing. The floor-to-ceiling windows, he'd been told by the real estate agent, offered the best view of the skyline. He never looked at it anymore. He poured 2 fingers of whiskey, then poured it back into the bottle without drinking. 3 months since he'd walked out of his own house. 3 months since he'd seen the text messages on his wife's phone, read every word of her plan to destroy him, seen the name of his best friend signing off with words that still made his chest tight. After we take everything, we'll finally be free of him. He should have burned their lives down. He had the power. The connections. 1 phone call and Oliver would disappear. Another call and Vivian would lose everything she tried to steal. But he'd just left. Packed a bag, walked out, and hadn't spoken to either of them since. The whiskey bottle gleamed in the low light. His phone sat beside it. He picked up the phone. Hey there, my wonderful friend. How's your day going? I hope you're still with me because this story is just beginning. I'd love to hear your thoughts so far. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Elena fed the baby at 2 in the morning, watching her daughter's tiny fists relax as she finally ate her fill. The formula had cost $18 at the 24-hour pharmacy. Elena had bought 2 containers, and the guilt of spending a stranger's money warred with the relief of watching her baby satisfied. She should send the remaining money back. She should block the number and forget this happened. Instead, she sent a text. "Thank you. I don't know what else to say. Thank you." She didn't expect a response. It was 2 in the morning. Normal people were asleep. The reply came 30 seconds later. "What's your name?" Elena hesitated. Every safety instinct screamed at her to lie, to deflect, to protect herself. But he'd fed her baby when no one else could. "Elena. That's a good name." She waited, but nothing else came. Just that one line and then silence. Over the next week, they texted sporadically. Never about anything important. He asked how the baby was. She said fine, growing, sleeping a bit better. He asked if she needed anything else. She said no, she'd pay him back soon. He never brought up the money again. Instead, he asked what her favorite color was, what music she listened to, if she preferred coffee or tea. Small things, easy things, things that felt like getting to know someone instead of owing someone. Elena told herself it was harmless. Told herself it was just gratitude, just friendliness, just two people passing time with a stranger on the other end of a screen. But when his name appeared on her phone, her pulse kicked up. She'd started saving his number under a name, not his real one. He still hadn't told her that. Friend. 2 weeks after the first text, he asked a different question. "Can I meet you?" Elena stared at the message for 5 full minutes. This was where it turned. This was where the trap revealed itself. Men didn't give money and ask for nothing. They didn't text for 2 weeks about favorite books and childhood memories and then just want to meet for no reason. Her thumb hovered over the decline she'd already composed in her mind. "Just coffee. Somewhere public. You can bring the baby. I just want to see that you're real." That last line broke something in her chest. "I just want to see that you're real." She understood that. God, she understood that. "Okay. Tomorrow afternoon. There's a cafe on Marshall Street." His reply was immediate. "I'll be there." Elena didn't sleep that night. She told herself it was the baby, but her daughter slept peacefully for once. It was her own mind that wouldn't quiet. She changed outfits 4 times before her shift, then felt ridiculous. This wasn't a date. This was... what? A transaction. A safety check. A thank you coffee with a stranger who'd saved her from watching her baby starve. She settled on jeans and a clean sweater, the nicest thing she owned that didn't have stains. The cafe was small, tucked between a laundromat and a tax office, filled with mismatched chairs and the smell of burnt coffee. Elena arrived first, the baby carrier tucked against her chest, and chose a table by the window where everyone could see. Safety. Witnesses. Escape routes. Her hands shook as she texted him. "I'm here. Blue sweater. Turn around." She did. And every single thought in her head went silent. He stood just inside the door, and he didn't look like someone who belonged in a cafe that served coffee in chipped mugs. He wore black, simple and clean, but the way he carried himself made it look expensive. Dark hair fell naturally away from his face, the kind of careless perfect that took effort or genetics she couldn't afford to guess at. His jawline could cut glass. His eyes found hers immediately, and something in them looked both dangerous and desperately sad. Tattoos traced up the side of his neck, disappearing under his collar. More ink decorated his hands, symbols she didn't recognize, elegant and dark. He was beautiful in a way that made her afraid. He crossed the cafe in 4 strides and stopped at her table, and up close she could see the weariness in his eyes, the weight he carried like armor. "Elena." His voice was low, quiet, meant only for her. She couldn't speak. He glanced down at the baby, and his entire expression softened in a way that broke every defense she'd prepared. "Can I sit?" She nodded. He sat across from her, folded his hands on the table, and for a long moment they just looked at each other. "I'm Dominic," he finally said. "And I'm not going to hurt you. Why did you help me?" The question came out before she could stop it. His smile was small, sad and real. Because someone asking for help to feed a baby is the most honest thing I've heard in years. They sat in that cafe for 3 hours. Coffee went cold. The baby slept peacefully in her carrier, full and content. And Elena found herself talking to this stranger like she hadn't talked to anyone in years. She told him about the diner, about the regular who left prayer cards instead of tips, about her feet that ached so badly some nights she couldn't sleep. She told him about her daughter's first smile, about the fear that woke her up at 3 in the morning whispering that she wasn't enough, that she'd fail, that her baby deserved better. She didn't tell him about the father. Didn't mention the man who'd promised forever and disappeared the day she told him she was pregnant. Some wounds were still too fresh. Dominic listened to every word. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer solutions, didn't do that thing men always did where they tried to fix everything. He just listened, his dark eyes steady on hers, and when she finally ran out of words, he nodded slowly. "You're stronger than you think," he said quietly. "I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm drowning. Drowning people don't keep swimming. You're still swimming." Something in her chest cracked open. "What about you?" she asked. "Why does someone like you have time to meet a stranger for coffee on a Tuesday afternoon?" His expression shuddered slightly. Not closed but careful. "Someone like me. You know what I mean." She gestured vaguely at him, at the expensive simplicity of his clothes, the watch on his wrist that probably cost more than her yearly rent, the way people in the cafe had looked at him when he walked in. "You don't exactly look like you're struggling. Money doesn't mean you're not drowning," he said. "It just means you're drowning in deeper water." The rawness in his voice made her reach across the table without thinking. Her hand covered his, and she felt him go completely still. His hands were warm, strong, decorated with ink that looked like it told stories she couldn't read. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to assume." He turned his hand over slowly, his palm against hers, and the simple intimacy of it made her breath catch. "My wife is sleeping with my best friend," he said, the words flat and emotionless. "They've been planning to take everything I've built and destroy me. I found out 3 months ago. I haven't spoken to either of them since." Elena's fingers tightened on his. "Dominic, I don't know why I just told you that." He looked down at their joined hands like he was seeing them from a distance. "I haven't told anyone. Maybe because I'm safe," she said softly. "I'm nobody. I have nothing you need. There's no reason for me to use it against you." His eyes lifted to hers, and the intensity in them made her feel seen in a way that was both terrifying and intoxicating. "You're not nobody, Elena." The baby stirred, making small sounds, and the moment broke. Elena pulled her hand back, fussing with the carrier, her cheeks warm. "I should get home. I have a shift tonight. Let me drive you." "You don't have to do that." "I know." He stood, and she realized how tall he was, how he moved with a kind of controlled grace that came from either training or violence. "But I want to." The car was exactly what she expected. Sleek, black, expensive enough that she was afraid to touch anything. But he opened the door for her with careful gentleness, helped her secure the baby carrier in the back seat like he'd done it 1,000 times, and drove through the city with one hand on the wheel and the silence comfortable between them. When he pulled up outside her building, a run-down complex with bars on the windows and graffiti on the walls, he didn't react, didn't judge, just put the car in park and turned to look at her. "Can I see you again?" Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Why?" "Because talking to you is the first time I've felt like myself in months." His honesty was almost painful. "Because you asked for help for your baby, not yourself. Because you're real, Elena. And I'm so tired of things that aren't real." She should say no. She should protect herself, protect her daughter, keep the walls up that had kept her alive this long. "Tomorrow," she heard herself say. "There's a park near the river. I take her there in the afternoons." His smile transformed his face, softened all the hard edges into something almost boyish. "Tomorrow." She got out of the car, fumbled with the carrier, and made it to her apartment door before she let herself look back. He was still there watching, making sure she got inside safely. That night, she lay in bed with her phone in her hand and let herself admit the truth. She was falling for a man she barely knew. And it was the worst possible timing in a life already filled with bad timing. Across the city, Dominic sat in his apartment and did something he hadn't done in years. He smiled at his phone like a fool. Then his screen lit up with a different name, and the smile died. Oliver. His former best friend. The man he'd trusted with everything. The man who'd grown up beside him, built an empire with him, sworn loyalty that turned out to mean nothing. The message was simple. We need to talk. It's not what you think. Dominic deleted it without responding. But the damage was done. The reminder of his real life, the one he'd been hiding from for 3 months, crashed back into focus. He wasn't free. He was never going to be free. And now he'd dragged Elena into his mess just by existing in her world. His phone buzzed again. Different name this time. Vivian. His wife. Beautiful, ambitious, ruthless Vivian, who'd looked at him with love in her eyes while planning his destruction in her messages. The lawyers need answers, Dominic. You can't hide forever. He could actually. He had enough money, enough connections, enough power to disappear and never surface. But that wasn't who he was. He'd built everything himself, clawed his way up from nothing, and he wasn't going to run. He just needed time. Time to figure out what he actually wanted. Time to understand why a single mother with tired eyes and honest desperation made him feel more alive than anything in his carefully constructed life ever had. He typed a response to Vivian. My lawyers will contact yours. Then he blocked her number. It was petty. Solved nothing. But it felt like taking back a small piece of control. His phone buzzed a third time and he almost threw it across the room. But this name made him stop. Lena. Thank you for today. I haven't talked like that with anyone in a long time. Sleep well. Something in his chest, something he'd thought was dead, stirred back to life. He typed back. Dream of good things. I'll see you tomorrow. Then he set the phone down, poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey, and this time he drank. The next afternoon, Elena pushed the stroller along the river path and tried not to check her phone every 30 seconds. He'd said he'd come. He'd seemed genuine. But men said a lot of things, and genuine didn't always mean follow through. The park was nearly empty, just a few joggers and an old man feeding pigeons. The sky threatened rain, heavy clouds rolling in from the east, and she should probably head home before it broke. Elena. She turned, and there he was. Dominic walked toward her in jeans and a dark jacket. His hair slightly messed from the wind, and he looked more human than yesterday. Less polished. More real. You came, she said, and hated how surprised she sounded. I said I would. He reached the stroller, crouched down to the baby's level, and his face softened again in that way that made Elena's defenses crumble. Hello, beautiful girl. You're even prettier than yesterday. The baby stared at him with wide eyes, then reached out a tiny hand. Dominic offered his finger, and she grabbed it with the fierce grip only babies had. She likes you, Elena said softly. I like her too. He stood, but the baby didn't let go, so he walked beside the stroller with one hand held captive by tiny fingers. What's her name? You never said. Sophie. Sophie. He tested the name, smiled. Perfect. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, the river flowing beside them, the city sounds distant and unimportant. Can I ask you something personal? Elena finally said. You can ask me anything. Why haven't you fought back? Against your wife and your friend. You seem like someone who could fight back. Dominic was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the water. Because fighting them means becoming the man they think I am, he said finally. Cold, vengeful, dangerous. And I've spent my whole life trying not to be that man. What kind of man do you want to be? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and the vulnerability in his eyes made her heart ache. I don't know anymore. I thought I did. I thought building something, creating success, providing for people, that was enough. But it all fell apart anyway. So you walked away. So I walked away, he confirmed. And I've been floating ever since. Until. He trailed off. Until what? Until you texted the wrong number and reminded me that good people still exist. Elena stopped walking. The baby had fallen asleep, releasing Dominic's finger, and the first drops of rain started to fall. I'm not good, she said quietly. I'm just trying to survive. That's what good people do. They survive and they keep trying, and they don't destroy everyone around them in the process. The rain picked up, sudden and heavy, and Dominic immediately moved to shield the stroller. There's a gazebo, Elena said, pointing to a structure 50 feet away. They ran, laughing despite the downpour, and huddled under the shelter while rain pounded the roof and Sophie slept through it all. Dominic's jacket was soaked. His hair dripped water, and he looked absolutely perfect. This is ridiculous, Elena said, trying to wring out her sweater. This is the most fun I've had in years. She laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from her chest and felt like release. And then she looked up and found him watching her with an expression that made the laughter die in her throat. What? She whispered. You're beautiful when you laugh. Dominic. I know this is fast. I know this is crazy. I know I have no right to feel what I'm feeling. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the water droplets on his eyelashes, the pulse beating in his throat. But I can't stop thinking about you, Elena. And I need to know if I'm alone in this. She should lie. She should protect herself. You're not alone, she breathed. His hand came up slowly, carefully, giving her every chance to pull away. His fingers traced her jawline, gentle and reverent, and when his thumb brushed her lower lip, she stopped breathing entirely. Tell me to leave, he said roughly. Tell me this is a bad idea. Tell me you don't want this. I can't. Why not? Because I'd be lying. He kissed her then, soft and slow and devastating. His hand cupped her face like she was something precious, something breakable, and she let herself fall into it. Into him. Into the impossible hope that maybe, just maybe, the wrong number had been exactly right. The rain poured down around them. The baby slept peacefully. And for one perfect moment, the world felt full of possibility instead of pain. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. I'm broken, Elena. I don't know if I can be fixed. I'm barely holding myself together, she whispered back. I don't know if I have anything to give. Then maybe we can be broken together. She kissed him again and it felt like falling and flying at the same time. Behind them, neither of them noticed the figure standing in the rain, watching. Oliver had found him. And nothing was going to stay perfect for long. Elena's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She stood at the diner counter, refilling ketchup bottles during the lull between lunch and dinner rush, and every few minutes her pocket lit up with another message from Dominic. They'd been inseparable for 2 weeks since the kiss in the gazebo. He came to the park every day. Brought coffee that actually tasted good. Brought toys for Sophie. Brought a version of himself that smiled more with each passing afternoon. He'd started picking her up from her late shifts, driving her home through the quiet city streets, kissing her goodnight at her door with a restraint that made her ache. Last night, he'd asked her to let him help with rent. She'd said no. This morning, she'd found an envelope under her door with enough cash to cover 2 months and a note that just said, "Not alone. A gift. Please." Her phone buzzed again. "You're popular today," Rita said, the other waitress working the shift, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and opinions about everything. "That the guy who's been picking you up?" Elena felt her cheeks warm. "Maybe. Maybe nothing. I've seen how he looks at you, honey. That man is gone. It's complicated. It always is." Rita tied off a garbage bag, hoisted it with practiced ease. But complicated doesn't mean bad. Sometimes it just means real. Elena pulled out her phone. 5 messages from Dominic. "Having lunch with someone from my old life. Might be late to the park. Don't worry. Everything's fine. I'm handling it. Then, 20 minutes later. Can I call you later? I need to hear your voice. And finally, just 2 minutes ago. I'm sorry. That last one made her stomach twist. She dialed his number. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. Hey, it's me. Your messages sound weird. Call me when you can, okay? I'm here. She hung up and tried to focus on work, but the unease sat heavy in her chest. Across town, in a restaurant far nicer than any Elena had ever entered, Dominic sat across from Oliver and tried to remember why they'd once been brothers. Oliver looked the same. Sharp suit, easy smile, the kind of charisma that made people trust him instantly. That smile had talked their way out of trouble 100 times when they were younger. Had closed business deals, charmed investors, built the empire they'd created together. Now it just looked like a mask. You look good, Dom. Better than the last few months, anyway. Oliver leaned back in his chair, coffee untouched in front of him. I was worried about you. Were you worried before or after you started sleeping with my wife? The smile faltered. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Dominic kept his voice level, controlled. The restaurant was public, full of people who knew his face. He couldn't afford a scene. Explain to me how sleeping with Vivian and planning to destroy everything I built is something other than what it looks like. Oliver had the decency to look uncomfortable. I didn't plan for it to happen. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did it anyway. I fell in love with her, Dom. The words came out rough, almost desperate. I tried not to. I fought it for months. But she was lonely and you were always working and we just connected. So this is my fault. Dominic felt the familiar anger rising, pushed it back down. I worked too much, so naturally my wife and best friend had no choice but to betray me. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Oliver? Because I've been waiting 3 months for an explanation that makes any of this make sense, and so far I'm not hearing it. Oliver leaned forward, and for the first time, Dominic saw genuine pain in his eyes. I'm saying I'm sorry. I'm saying I never wanted it to go this far. I'm saying Vivian and I are trying to figure out how to untangle this mess without destroying you in the process. How noble. Don't do that. Don't act like you're the only one suffering here. Oliver's voice rose slightly, then dropped when he remembered where they were. I lost my best friend. I lost the business we built together. I lost everything that mattered except her. You made a choice. So did you. Oliver held his gaze. You chose work over your marriage. You chose building an empire over being present. You chose control over connection. Vivian felt invisible, Dom. And I saw her. The words hit harder than Dominic expected. 'Cause they were partially true. He had worked constantly. Had prioritized deals over dinners, meetings over moments. Had believed that providing and protecting were the same as loving. And he'd been wrong. But that didn't excuse what they'd done. Why are you here? Dominic asked quietly. What do you want? Oliver pulled an envelope from his jacket, slid it across the table. Divorce papers. Vivian had them drawn up. She's not asking for anything except what's legally hers. Half the house, half the shared accounts. She wants this to be clean. Clean. Dominic didn't touch the envelope. That's a nice word for it. She also wants you to know she's sorry. That she never meant for you to find out the way you did. She meant for me not to find out at all. Oliver didn't deny it. Dominic stared at the envelope, at the end of his marriage reduced to legal paperwork and signatures. Is there anything else? Yeah. Oliver hesitated. People are talking. Asking questions about where you've been, what you're doing. Your absence is creating gaps, and gaps get filled. You need to come back, make some appearances, show that you're still in control. I don't care. You should. Because the people filling those gaps aren't your friends. Oliver's expression darkened. And if they think you're weak, if they think you've walked away permanently, they'll take everything. Not just from you. From everyone connected to you. Dominic felt the old weight settling back onto his shoulders. The responsibility. The constant vigilance. The exhausting need to stay 3 steps ahead of everyone. I'm out, Oliver. I'm done with all of it. You don't get to be done. That's not how this works. Oliver stood, dropped cash on the table for the coffee neither of them had drunk. Think about the divorce papers. Think about coming back. And Dominic looked up. Be careful. People are watching you. And whoever you're spending your time with, they're going to become a target just by association. He walked away, and Dominic sat alone with the envelope and the crushing realization that he'd been living in a fantasy. He couldn't leave his old life behind. And now he'd put Elena directly in its crosshairs. Elena was changing Sophie's diaper when someone knocked on her door. It was almost 9 at night. Dominic had texted an hour ago saying he couldn't make it, that something had come up, that he'd explain tomorrow. His messages had felt distant, careful, and the unease from earlier had bloomed into full anxiety. She checked the peephole, saw a woman she didn't recognize, and considered not answering. The woman knocked again. Elena. My name is Vivian. I think we should talk. Every instinct screamed danger. But curiosity and something darker, something that needed to see the woman who'd broken Dominic, made her unlock the door. Vivian was stunning. Tall, elegant, with dark hair pulled into a perfect twist and clothes that probably cost more than Elena's yearly salary. She looked like she belonged in magazines, in boardrooms, in a world Elena could never touch. She looked like everything Elena wasn't. I know this is unexpected, Vivian said, her voice smooth and controlled. But I think you deserve to know who you're getting involved with. How do you even know about me? Dominic isn't as careful as he thinks. And people talk. Vivian's smile was cold. Can I come in? No. Fair enough. Vivian stayed in the hallway, perfectly composed. I'll be brief. My husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, is not who you think he is. I know about you, Elena said. I know what you did. Did he tell you what he does? How he made his money? The kind of people he works with? Vivian tilted her head. Or did he paint himself as the victim and me as the villain? Elena's grip tightened on the door. Why are you here? Because I made the mistake of falling in love with Dominic Keller once, and I spent 5 years paying for it. Vivian's mask cracked slightly, showing something raw underneath. He's charming. He's intense. He makes you feel like you're the only person in the world. And then slowly, piece by piece, his life swallows yours whole until you can't remember who you were before him. That's not what's happening, isn't it? Has he started giving you money yet? Solving your problems? Making you feel safe? Vivian's eyes were sharp. That's how it starts. You let him help because you need it. Then you need him. Then you can't leave even when you want to because your entire life is built on what he provides. You don't know anything about me. I know you're a single mother working at a diner. I know you're struggling. I know Dominic found you at the exact moment you were vulnerable enough to accept his help. Vivian's expression softened into something almost sympathetic. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to warn you. Walk away now, before his world destroys yours. His world or you. Vivian laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think I'm the threat. Sweetheart, I'm the one who got away. The real threats are the people Dominic spent years cultivating relationships with. The business partners, the investors, the connections he made building his empire. Those people don't care about you. But they'll use you to get to him the second it's convenient. Elena felt cold despite the warmth of her apartment behind her. Why do you care what happens to me? Because I was you once. And nobody warned me. Vivian pulled a card from her purse, held it out. When this falls apart, and it will, call me. I'll help you pick up the pieces. She walked away, heels clicking on the tile floor, and Elena stood in her doorway holding a business card and feeling like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. Sophie started crying. Elena closed the door, locked it, and picked up her daughter with shaking hands. Her phone buzzed. Dominic, I'm outside. Can we talk? She looked through the peephole and saw him standing in the same hallway Vivian had just left, hands in his pockets, shoulders tight with tension. She shouldn't let him in. She should think, process, protect herself. She opened the door. Dominic took one look at her face and knew. She was here. It wasn't a question. She said, "You're dangerous. That your life will destroy mine. That I should run while I still can." Elena held Sophie against her chest like a shield. "Tell me she's wrong." "I can't." The honesty broke her. "Then why are you here, Dominic? Why did you find me, get close to me, make me care about you if you knew this would happen?" "Because I'm selfish." He stepped inside, closed the door behind him, and the small apartment suddenly felt even smaller with his presence filling it. "Because you made me feel human again, and I didn't want to give that up. Because I thought I could keep you separate from all of it." "Can you?" "No." The word was raw. "My past found me today. And it's not going to let go. Being with me puts a target on you, on Sophie. And I can't live with that." Elena's heart cracked down the middle. "So this is you ending it. This is me giving you a choice." He moved closer, and she could see the war in his eyes. "I can walk away right now. Disappear from your life like I was never here. You'll be safe, untouched by any of my mess. Or what? Or you let me stay, and I promise you I will burn down anyone and anything that tries to hurt you. I will use every resource, every connection, every dark piece of my past to protect you and Sophie. But that means accepting that my life is complicated and dangerous, and nothing like the fairy tale you deserve. I never believed in fairy tales. Elena. I believe in you." She shifted Sophie to one arm, reached out with the other to touch his face. "I believe in the man who sent money to a stranger for baby formula. Who sits in parks and lets a baby hold his finger for an hour. Who kisses me like I'm something precious. That's who you are, Dominic. Not whatever Vivian thinks you are. What if she's right? What if I pull you into something you can't escape? Then we escape together." She pulled him down until their foreheads touched. "I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of barely surviving. You make me feel alive, and I'm not ready to give that up." "You're sure?" "I'm terrified. But yes." He kissed her then, desperate and relieved, and she kissed him back with everything she had. When they broke apart, he wrapped his arms around her and Sophie both, holding them like he was afraid they'd disappear. "I need to tell you everything," he said into her hair. "About my business, about Vivian and Oliver, about why people might come looking. You need to know what you're agreeing to." "Okay." "And then I need to make some calls. Put protections in place. Make sure you're safe." "Okay." "Elena." He pulled back to look at her. "I'm in love with you. I know it's too soon, and I know it's complicated, but I need you to know that." Her breath caught. "That's really terrible timing." "I know. I'm in love with you too." His smile was brilliant and broken and beautiful. "Then I guess we're doing this." "I guess we are." Outside, in a car across the street, Oliver watched Dominic's silhouette in the window and made a phone call. "Yeah, it's me. Found him. And no, he's not coming back. He's got a girl. A weakness." Another pause, longer this time. "I know what needs to be done." He hung up, stared at the building, and hated himself for what came next. But business was business. And Dominic had made his choice. Now everyone else had to live with the consequences. Dominic told her everything that night. He'd made his fortune in acquisitions and investments, buying struggling companies and rebuilding them. Legitimate work mostly. But the money that started it all had come from places he wasn't proud of. People he'd worked with in his 20s. Connections that never fully disappeared even when he tried to go clean. "I'm not a good man pretending to be bad," he said quietly. "I'm a bad man who's been trying to be good." Elena listened, Sophie asleep in her arms, and didn't flinch. "Are you still involved with those people?" "I've been trying to cut ties for years. But they don't let go easily. And Oliver." Dominic's jaw tightened. "Oliver wants me back in." He thinks I'm abandoning the business, leaving him vulnerable. He's right. What does that mean for us? It means I need to end things officially. Sign the divorce papers, dissolve the partnership, make it clear I'm out. He took her hand. It means a few weeks of me handling things I should have handled months ago. Can you wait for me? I've waited my whole life for something real. I can wait a little longer. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I'll make this right. I promise. But promises were fragile things. 3 days later, Elena's manager called her into the office at the diner. I'm sorry, Elena. I have to let you go. The world tilted. What? Why? Owner's orders. He didn't give a reason. Her manager looked genuinely apologetic. I fought for you, but it came from the top. Elena walked out in a daze. She'd worked there for 2 years, never missed a shift, never caused problems. The timing couldn't be coincidence. She called Dominic. Voicemail. She texted him. No response for 3 hours. When he finally called back, his voice was tight with anger. Someone's playing games. I'll fix this. How did they even know where I worked? I don't know. But I'm going to find out. That night, her landlord slipped an eviction notice under her door. Noise complaints from neighbors she'd never spoken to. Violations she'd never committed. Her hands shook as she photographed it and sent it to Dominic. His response was immediate. Pack a bag. You're staying with me until this is resolved. I can't just move in with you. You can't stay somewhere that's been compromised. Please, Elena. Trust me. She looked around her tiny apartment, at Sophie sleeping peacefully, and felt the walls closing in. Okay. But just until it's safe. She didn't see the smile on Oliver's face as he received the confirmation that Phase 1 was complete. Pressure applied. Now to wait for the cracks to show. Dominic's apartment felt like a museum. Beautiful, expensive, and utterly lifeless. Elena put Sophie down in the guest room he'd hastily converted into a nursery, complete with a crib that probably cost more than her car, and tried not to feel like she was drowning. It's temporary, Dominic said, reading her expression. Just until I figure out who's targeting you. This is because of us. Because of me being with you. This is because of my past catching up. He pulled her close. And I'm going to end it. But ending it proved harder than either of them expected. The next week was a nightmare of bureaucratic sabotage. Her bank account was frozen for suspicious activity that didn't exist. Her phone number was flagged for spam, cutting off her contacts. Sophie's pediatrician cancelled their appointments without explanation. Every piece of her independence was systematically dismantled. And through it all, Dominic fixed things with phone calls and money and connections, making her more dependent on him with each passing day. Exactly like Vivian had warned. I need to do something, Elena said on the 5th night. I can't just hide here while you solve all my problems. You're not hiding. You're staying safe. I'm losing myself. Dominic looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw him understand. What do you need? I need to fight back. I need to be part of the solution, not just the victim. He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. Tomorrow you come with me to meet Oliver. Help me end this partnership for good. You think he's behind this? I think Oliver is the only person who knows enough about me to orchestrate this. And I think seeing that I'm serious about moving forward, might make him back off. Made sense. Felt right. It was exactly what Oliver wanted them to think. The meeting was set for a restaurant downtown. Neutral ground. Public and safe. Elena wore the nicest dress Dominic had bought her, hating that she needed him to buy her clothes, hating that she looked like she belonged in his world now. Sophie stayed with a professional nanny Dominic had hired, another piece of dependence she couldn't refuse. Oliver was already seated when they arrived. He stood when he saw Elena, and his smile was warm and genuine and set every nerve on edge. You must be Elena. I've heard so much about you. I wish I could say the same. His laugh was easy. Fair. She's sharp. I like her. Dominic's hand tightened on Elena's back. Let's keep this professional. They sat, ordered drinks nobody touched, and Oliver slid papers across the table. Dissolution of partnership. You walk away clean, I buy out your shares at market value. We part as friends. We're not friends anymore. No, Oliver agreed. But we don't have to be enemies either. Dominic read through the papers, and Elena watched Oliver watch her. This is generous, Dominic said slowly. I don't want to punish you for choosing a different life. I just want what's mine. Something felt wrong. Too easy. Too neat. Sign it, Oliver said. End this chapter. Start your new one with Elena. Dominic picked up the pen. Elena's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check page 7, clause 3. Her stomach dropped. She grabbed Dominic's wrist before he could sign. Wait. Let me see page 7. Oliver's expression flickered. Just for a second. But she saw it. Dominic flipped to page 7, read clause 3, and went completely still. A non-compete spanning every industry I've ever worked in for 10 years. His voice was ice. Signing this doesn't just remove me from our business. It prevents me from working anywhere. Standard protection, Oliver said smoothly. Standard manipulation. Dominic stood. We're done here. Dom, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. Which is why I'm walking away instead of burning your life to the ground. He took Elena's hand. Come near her again, come near me again, and I stop being reasonable. They left Oliver sitting alone, and Elena's phone buzzed again. You're welcome. And you're right not to trust him. Stay safe. A friend. She showed Dominic in the car. Someone's helping us, she said. But who? Dominic stared at the message, and something like understanding crossed his face. I think I know. And if I'm right, this is about to get much worse before it gets better. The helper was Vivian. She called Dominic directly the next morning, and he put her on speaker so Elena could hear. Oliver isn't working alone, Vivian said without preamble. He's partnered with Daniel Corso. Dominic went pale. That's not possible. Corso's been out of the game for years. He's back. And he wants revenge for you going legitimate and cutting him out. Oliver promised him access to all your old connections in exchange for help taking you down. Elena watched Dominic's hands shake. Who is Daniel Corso? Someone from my past I thought I'd buried. His voice was hollow. Someone dangerous. He's been orchestrating everything, Vivian continued. The job loss, the eviction, all of it. He wants you broken, Dominic. And he's using Elena to do it. Why are you helping us? Elena asked. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Because I loved him once. And because nobody deserves what Corso does to people. Dominic made calls after that. Put more security in place. Hired people to watch the apartment. Promised Elena it would be okay. But his eyes told a different story. That afternoon, Elena went to pick up Sophie from the nanny. The apartment was empty. No nanny. No baby. Just a note on the counter in handwriting she didn't recognize. You took what was mine. Now I've taken what's yours. Come alone to the address below, or you'll never see her again. Elena's scream brought Dominic running. He read the note and his face transformed into something terrifying. I'll get her back. I swear to God I'll get her back. The note says come alone. I don't care what it says. Dominic. Elena grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. This is my daughter. If you go in there like a warlord, they'll kill her. Me go. Let me talk to them. I can't lose you both. You won't. But I need you to trust me. Tears streamed down her face. Please. Every instinct screamed at him to refuse. But he saw the determination in her eyes, the mother who would walk through fire for her child. You wear a wire. I'm listening to everything. And I'm 2 minutes away at all times. Okay. The address was a warehouse on the east side. Abandoned, isolated, exactly the kind of place nightmares happened. Elena walked in alone, the wire taped to her chest, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might explode. Sophie's cries echoed through the space. "Hello, Elena." Oliver stepped from the shadows, and he was holding her daughter. Sophie was crying, reaching for her, and Elena's entire world narrowed to getting her baby back. "Give her to me. In a minute. First we talk." Oliver rocked Sophie awkwardly, like he didn't know how to hold a baby. "You've been a problem." Dominic was finally vulnerable, finally ready to walk away. "And then you gave him a reason to care again. So you took my child." "I borrowed her. To make a point." He moved closer. "Dominic built an empire I helped create. And he was going to abandon me for what? A waitress and a baby that isn't even his. Love isn't a business transaction. No. It's a weakness." Oliver's smile was cold. "And Corso taught me how to exploit weakness." Behind him, another figure emerged from the shadows. Daniel Corso was older, scarred, with eyes that held nothing human. He looked at Elena like she was an insect. "Dominic Keller." His voice was gravel. "Always thought he was smarter than everyone. Always thought he could just walk away clean." He nodded to Oliver. "Make the call." Oliver pulled out his phone, and Elena heard Dominic's voice through the wire, through the device Oliver held up. "You're listening, aren't you, Dom? Here's how this works. You sign over everything to Oliver. Every asset, every account, every connection. And we let the girl and her baby go." "Don't do it," Elena said. "Dominic, don't you dare." Corso moved faster than she expected. His hand cracked across her face, and she tasted blood. Sophie screamed. And Elena heard Dominic roar through the wire, heard tires screeching, heard him coming. "You just made a mistake," Oliver said into the phone. "She said come alone." He hung up, nodded to Corso, and Elena watched in horror as Corso pulled out a lighter. "The warehouse is rigged," Oliver said, backing toward the exit. "Dominic gets here in time to choose. Save you or save his revenge on us. Either way, he loses." They left. The door slammed, and Elena smelled gasoline. Fire erupted along the walls, spreading impossibly fast, and she ran toward Sophie's cries, found her in a carrier near the back, scooped her up and looked for an exit. Smoke filled her lungs. Heat blistered her skin. She heard Dominic screaming her name. Found a window, smashed it with a metal pipe, and climbed through with Sophie clutched to her chest. She collapsed on the pavement outside just as Dominic reached her. He gathered them both into his arms, and behind them, the warehouse exploded into an inferno. "I've got you. I've got you both." He was shaking, checking them for injuries, his hands desperate and gentle. Sophie coughed but breathed. Elena's arm was burned, her face bruised, but she was alive. They were alive. But as sirens approached and Dominic held them in the shadow of the burning building, Elena realized the truth. Vivian had been right. His world had destroyed hers. She'd lost her job, her home, her independence. She'd almost lost her daughter. She'd almost died. And it was all because she'd loved him. "I'm sorry," Dominic whispered against her hair. "I'm so sorry." Elena closed her eyes and felt everything shatter. 'Cause sorry didn't fix this. Sorry didn't make them safe. And she didn't know if love was enough to survive what came next. Elena didn't speak for 2 days. She sat in Dominic's guest room with Sophie, rocking her daughter and staring at nothing. The burn on her arm was bandaged. The bruise on her face had turned purple. But the real damage was inside, in the part of her that had believed love could be simple. Dominic tried everything. Brought food she didn't eat. Sat beside her in silence. Apologized until the words lost meaning. On the 3rd day, she finally looked at him. "I want to leave." His face crumpled. "Elena, I can't do this. I can't live in fear that someone will take her again. That they'll hurt her to hurt you." Her voice was flat, empty. "I have to protect my daughter. Let me protect you both." "You can't." "You tried and she was still taken. I was still almost killed. She stood, started packing the few belongings she had. This was a mistake. The wrong number, all of it. I should have known better. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. She turned to face him, and her eyes were dead. I fell for a fantasy. The rich man who saves the poor girl. But real life doesn't work that way. Real life has consequences. Dominic looked destroyed. What about us? What we feel? Feelings don't keep babies safe. She picked up Sophie, picked up her bag and walked toward the door. Vivian was standing in the hallway. Running away, she asked softly. Getting smart. Elena tried to move past her. Vivian blocked her path. I told you his world would swallow yours. I was right. But I was also wrong about something. I don't want to hear it. He loves you. Really loves you. I lived with Dominic for 5 years, and he never looked at me the way he looks at you. Vivian's expression was sad. I was a trophy. A business arrangement that became a marriage. But you're the first real thing he's ever had. That doesn't change what happened. No. But it matters when you're deciding what happens next. Vivian stepped aside. The door's open. You can walk out, start over, be safe. Or you can stay and fight for something that might actually be worth the risk. How is risking my daughter's life worth anything? It's not. But running doesn't make you safe either. Vivian's voice dropped. Corso doesn't forget. Oliver doesn't forgive. You're connected to Dominic now whether you leave or not. The only question is whether you face it alone or together. Elena felt the truth of it settle into her bones. There was no going back to her old life. That Elena was gone, burned away in a warehouse fire. She could run and spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. Or she could stay and face it. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither does he. But maybe that's the point. Vivian touched her shoulder gently. Love isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be worth it. She walked away, leaving Elena standing in the hallway with her daughter and her choices. Elena went back inside. Dominic looked up from where he sat on the couch, hope and despair warring on his face. I'm not staying because I forgive you, she said quietly. I'm staying because leaving won't keep us safe. And I'm staying because I'm tired of running from everything hard in my life. I'll end this. I promise. No. She set down her bag, sat across from him. We'll end this. Together. But things change. No more you protecting me while I hide. No more you making decisions without me. If I'm in this, I'm all the way in. Elena, it's dangerous. I almost burned to death. I think we're past worrying about danger. Her eyes were hard. They took my daughter. They hurt us. And I want them to pay for it. Not you. Me. Dominic stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're sure? I've never been less sure of anything. But I'm doing it anyway. She reached across the space between them. Teach me how to fight back. Show me how your world works. And then we take down Oliver and Corso together. He took her hand, brought it to his lips. You're incredible. I'm terrified. But I'm also angry. And I'm done being a victim. For the first time since the fire, Dominic smiled. Then let's make them regret ever touching you. That night, Elena stood at the window holding Sophie, looking out at the city that had almost killed them. She'd come so close to walking away. So close to choosing safety over love. But safety was an illusion. And love, messy and dangerous and complicated as it was the only real thing she had. We're going to be okay, baby girl, she whispered. Mama's going to make sure of it. Behind her, Dominic made phone calls, activated connections, began planning their counterattack. And Elena felt something new rising in her chest. Not hope exactly, but resolve. They'd tried to break her. Now she was going to break them back. The first lesson happened the next morning. Dominic spread files across the dining table while Sophie played on a blanket nearby. Bank statements, corporate documents, encrypted messages between Oliver and Corso. This is how they operate, he said. Everything looks legitimate on the surface. But underneath, they're moving money, manipulating people, building leverage. Elena studied the papers, her mind working. So we need to prove the underneath part. Exactly. But proof requires access. And access requires trust. Who still trusts you in that world? Dominic's expression darkened. No one. I burned those bridges when I left. Then we build new ones. Elena looked up at him. Who hates Oliver and Corso as much as we do? That question changed everything. Over the next week, Dominic taught Elena how to read people, how to spot lies, how to use information as currency. She learned the language of his former world, the codes and signals, the unspoken rules. She was a fast learner. But learning wasn't enough. We need someone on the inside, Dominic said on day 9. Someone Oliver trusts who can get us the evidence we need. What about Vivian? She's already helped too much. If Oliver suspects her, she becomes a target. Elena chewed her lip, thinking. What about his assistant? The one who schedules his meetings? Dominic looked at her with newfound respect. Lisa Chin. His cousin. She's been with him for years. Does she know what he's doing? Probably suspects. But family loyalty runs deep. So does the instinct to protect yourself. Elena pulled out her phone. What if someone offered her immunity in exchange for testimony? The police won't move without evidence first. I wasn't talking about the police. Elena called Vivian. 2 days later, they sat in a coffee shop with Lisa Chen, a nervous woman in her 30s who kept glancing at the door. He's my cousin, Lisa said. I can't just betray him. He's using you, Elena said gently. Keeping you close so you're implicated if everything falls apart. You're not family to him. You're a shield. Lisa's hands shook around her coffee cup. I have 2 kids. If Oliver finds out I talked to you, we'll protect you. Full immunity, witness protection if needed, and enough money to start over. Elena leaned forward. But we need access to his files. The real ones. I don't know. He took my daughter. Elena's voice cracked. Put her in danger to hurt someone I love. How long before he does something that puts your kids at risk? Lisa closed her eyes. When she opened them, there were tears. He keeps everything on a private server. I have the password. Dominic and Elena exchanged glances. Can you get us in? Dominic asked. I can do better. I can download everything and bring it to you. Lisa wiped her eyes. But I need 3 days. He's traveling for business. It's the only time I'll have access without him watching. 3 days, Elena agreed. They shook hands, and Lisa left looking terrified but determined. That was risky, Dominic said when they were alone. Everything about this is risky. You're getting good at this. Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I hate that I have to be. Day 12 brought the deadline and the betrayal. Lisa was supposed to meet them at noon with the downloaded files. She didn't show. Dominic called her number. No answer. Elena felt ice in her stomach. Something's wrong. They drove to Lisa's house. The door was open. Inside, furniture was overturned, drawers emptied. And on the kitchen table, a note in Oliver's handwriting. Did you really think my own cousin would betray me? I know everything. And now you have 48 hours to meet my demands, or the police get an anonymous tip about Elena's involvement in corporate espionage. Tick-tock. Elena stared at the note, feeling everything crumble. He knew. The whole time he knew. We'll find another way. There is no other way. We have nothing. And now he's going to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. Her voice rose. I'll lose Sophie. They'll take her away if I'm arrested. Dominic pulled her close, but she pushed him away. This was stupid. I'm not built for this world. I'm a waitress who got in over her head. You're a mother fighting for her child. And I'm losing. Sophie started crying from her carrier, picking up on the tension. Elena went to her, picked her up, and felt the weight of every mistake crushing down. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello. Elena, it's Lisa." The voice was whispered, terrified. "I'm sorry. Oliver found out, threatened my kids. But I got the files before he caught me. I hid them." Elena's heart hammered. "Where?" "Safety deposit box at First National Bank. Box 237. The key is taped under the mailbox at the address where we met for coffee." "I'm running. Taking my kids and disappearing. But you can still win this. Make him pay for what he's done to all of us." The line went dead. Elena looked at Dominic, saw her own desperate hope reflected in his eyes. "We have one chance," she said. "And 48 hours to make it work. Then we don't sleep until it's done." That night, they retrieved the key, accessed the safety deposit box, and found everything. Years of Oliver's crimes, documented in spreadsheets and emails, and recorded conversations Lisa had secretly made. It was enough to destroy him. But they needed leverage against Corso too. "There." Elena pointed to an email chain. "Oliver references meeting Corso at his property upstate. If we can prove Corso's involved in the business crimes too, we can take them both down at once. That means we need Corso to incriminate himself on record. So we give him a reason to talk." Dominic looked at her. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Oliver wants to meet in 48 hours. We tell Corso that Oliver is planning to betray him, turn evidence to save himself." Elena's mind raced. "Corso shows up to confront him. We record everything. And we hand it all to the police tied in a bow. That's brilliant. That's desperate." But Elena smiled for the first time in hours. "Good thing desperate is all we have left." They spent the next 36 hours planning every detail, anticipating every variable, preparing for the confrontation that would either save them or destroy them. And Elena realized something. She wasn't the same woman who'd sent that wrong text months ago. That woman had been broken, desperate, barely surviving. This woman was a fighter. "Thank you," she said to Dominic the night before the meeting. "For what?" "For seeing who I could be before I saw it myself." He kissed her softly. "You were always this strong. You just needed a reason to use it." The next morning, Elena woke up before dawn, checked on Sophie sleeping peacefully, and got ready for war. She'd been a victim long enough. Time to become the victor. The trap was set. Elena stood in the same restaurant where Dominic had first met Oliver, wearing a wire and carrying evidence that would destroy both Oliver and Corso. Bank records, testimonies from people they'd hurt, proof of their crimes collected over 3 weeks of relentless investigation. Dominic had wanted to handle it alone. Elena had refused. "This started because of me. It ends with me." Now Oliver sat across from her, confident and smiling, thinking she'd come to beg. "Where's Dominic?" he asked. "Busy. I came to make you an offer." Oliver laughed. "You have nothing I want. I have proof you've been embezzling from the company for 2 years. That you and Corso have been running an illegal operation through Dominic's legitimate businesses." She slid a folder across the table. "And I have testimony from 6 people you've threatened, hurt, or destroyed." His smile vanished. "You're bluffing. Check the folder." He did. And she watched the color drain from his face. "Here's what's going to happen," Elena said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You're going to sign a full confession. You're going to turn on Corso and give the police everything they need to arrest him. And then you're going to disappear from our lives forever. Or what? Or I send this to every law enforcement agency in the state, every business partner you have, and every news outlet that will listen. You'll lose everything. Your reputation, your freedom, your future." Oliver leaned back, studying her. "You've changed. I had to. Dominic turned you into this." "No, you did. When you took my daughter." Her eyes were ice. "I was willing to walk away. To let Dominic handle his own past. But you made it personal. And now you pay the price." The door opened behind her. Corso walked in, flanked by 2 large men, and Elena's heart stopped. This wasn't the plan. Clever girl, Corso said. But did you really think Oliver wouldn't call for backup? Oliver stood, his confidence returning. Nice try, Elena. But you're out of your league. Then Dominic walked in through another entrance, followed by 4 police officers. And Vivian entered from a third door, phone in hand, recording everything. Actually, Dominic said calmly, she's exactly in her league. You just didn't realize the league had changed. Corso reached for something in his jacket, but the officers had weapons drawn before he could move. Daniel Corso, you're under arrest for kidnapping, attempted murder, and racketeering. The lead officer moved forward with handcuffs. Oliver Bruce, you're also under arrest as an accessory. Oliver stared at Elena in disbelief. This was all a setup. You taught me something, Elena said quietly. That the best victories come from making your enemy think they've already won. Corso fought as they cuffed him, spitting threats and curses. But the officers dragged him out, and Oliver followed in stunned silence. The lead officer turned to Elena before leaving. Lisa Chan and her children are in protective custody. They're safe. She wanted you to know. Elena nodded, relief flooding through her. At least one person who'd risked everything had made it out whole. When the restaurant finally emptied, Elena's legs gave out. Dominic caught her, held her close, and she felt 3 weeks of tension finally release. You were incredible, he whispered. I was terrified. You were both. He pulled back to look at her face. You didn't need me to save you. You saved yourself. Vivian approached slowly, carefully. That recording will ensure they stay locked up for years. Maybe forever. Thank you, Elena said. For helping. I told you I was you once. I just wish someone had taught me to fight back instead of run away. Vivian looked at Dominic. Take care of her. She's stronger than I ever was. I know. Vivian left, and Elena and Dominic stood in the empty restaurant where everything had almost fallen apart. It's really over? Lena asked. It's really over. She kissed him then, hard and desperate and relieved, and he kissed her back with everything he had. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Elena laughed. We actually did it. You did it. I just followed your lead. I like the sound of that. You following my lead. His smile was brilliant. Get used to it. They walked out together into the afternoon sun, and for the first time in months, the world felt safe. That night, Elena tucked Sophie into bed in their new apartment. Not Dominic's place. Not her old studio. Something they'd chosen together. Something that belonged to both of them. Dominic stood in the doorway, watching, and his expression was soft with wonder. I never thought I'd have this, he said quietly. What? A family. Real one. Built on choice instead of obligation. Elena crossed to him, wrapped her arms around his waist. Well, you're stuck with us now. Promise. Promise. He kissed the top of her head, and Sophie made a happy sound in her sleep. Somewhere across the city, Oliver sat in a cell and finally understood what he'd lost. Not the business, not the money, but the chance at something real. And Elena, who'd once been desperate enough to text the wrong number begging for help, fell asleep in the arms of the right man and dreamed of good things. 6 months later, Elena stood behind the counter of her own cafe. It was small, tucked into a neighborhood where people knew each other's names, nothing fancy or expensive. Just good coffee, warm pastries, and walls painted the color of sunshine. The sign above the door read, Second Chances. Dominic had offered to fund it. She'd refused. Instead, she'd taken a small business loan, built it herself with help from people who believed in her. It was hers in a way nothing had ever been before. Sophie sat in a playpen near the register, babbling at customers who stopped to make faces at her. She was walking now, getting into everything, filling their lives with chaos and joy. The door chimed. Dominic walked in, still wearing a suit from whatever meeting he'd just left, and his face transformed the moment he saw them. How's business? He asked, leaning over the counter to kiss her. Good. Mrs. Patterson ordered 3 dozen cookies for her book club. And that businessman from Fifth Street wants to discuss a catering contract. Look at you, entrepreneur. I learned from the best. She poured him coffee, made exactly how he liked it. How was your day? Long. But coming home to you makes it worth it. They'd moved in together 2 months ago, after Dominic had gotten down on one knee in this very cafe and asked her to marry him with a ring he'd designed himself. She'd said yes before he finished the question. The wedding was planned for spring. Small, simple, just the people who mattered. Vivian had sent a gift with a note that said, "Be happier than I was. You've earned it." Elena looked at Dominic now, at the man who'd started as a wrong number and become her entire world, and felt gratitude so deep it ached. "I never thanked you," she said softly. "For what?" "For responding that night. For not ignoring a desperate text from a stranger. Best mistake I ever made." "It wasn't a mistake." She came around the counter, wrapped her arms around him while Sophie clapped her hands. "It was fate. You believe in fate now. I believe in us. Same thing." He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips, and the cafe smelled like coffee and fresh starts. That night, after Sophie was asleep and they lay tangled together in bed, Dominic's phone buzzed. He ignored it. Buzzed again. Elena felt him tense. "You should check it. It's probably nothing." But they both knew better now. Knew that the past never stayed buried forever. He checked the message, and his expression went carefully blank. "What is it?" Lena asked. "Unknown number." He showed her the screen. "Congratulations on your victory. But every empire falls eventually. Enjoy your happiness while it lasts." Elena's blood went cold. "Corso's still in prison, right?" "He is. I checked last week." "Then who?" Dominic pulled her close. "I don't know. But whoever they are, they'll have to go through both of us this time." Elena nodded against his chest, feeling the old fear try to take root. But she'd learned something in the past year. Fear didn't have to win. Love was stronger. And she'd fight for it as many times as she had to. "Let them come," she whispered. "We survived worse." "Together," Dominic agreed. "Always together." Outside their window, the city lights glittered like promises. And somewhere in those lights, someone watched and waited and planned. But that was a story for another day. Tonight, Elena held the man she loved and the daughter she'd do anything to protect, and let herself believe in happy endings. Even the complicated ones. Especially the complicated ones. Because the best love stories never really ended. They just kept beginning again and again with each choice to stay. And Elena chose to stay. Hey there, my wonderful friend. Thank you for staying with Elena and Dominic through their entire journey. From a desperate wrong number text to a love that survived fire and betrayal, you've witnessed something special. I'd love to hear what you thought. Which moment hit you hardest? When did you know they'd make it? Drop a comment below and let me know where you're listening from. Your thoughts mean everything. And remember, sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call. Until next time, keep believing in second chances.